Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Triangulation is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com. This is Triangulation 187, recorded February 2nd, 2015. Indiegogo founder Danae Ringelmann. Triangulation is brought to you by HipChat. Collaborate, save time, and be more productive with your teams. HipChat is IM, video chat, plus file, code, and screen sharing, all in one place. Invite your team members and get a free 30-day trial of the full version of HipChat at hipchat.com/triangulation. And by Smartthings. Smartthings lets you monitor, control, and automate your home from wherever you are using your smartphone. Right now, Smartthings is offering Triangulation listeners 10% off any home security or solution kit. And get free shipping in the U.S. when you go to smartthings.com/twit and use the offer code TWIT at checkout. And by FreshBooks, the easy-to-use invoicing software designed to help small business owners save time billing and get paid faster. Join over 5 million users running their business with ease. Try it free at freshbooks.com/triangulation. It's time for Triangulation, the show where we get together with some of the coolest, interestingest, most grammatically challenged people on the internet. We talk technology with some of the best minds, and I'm really excited to have Danae Ringelmann on with us. Danae is the founder, one of the founders, and chief, what do you call it? Chief Application Officer at Indiegogo.
Development Officer.
Development. Hi, Danae. Welcome.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
So nice to talk to you. I almost don't know where to begin. But let's start at the beginning. Your background is in business. You went to Haas School of Management at Cal, and you went into finance, like everybody of your generation. Why not? There's gold in them Nar Hills.
I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. That was the big question. But I did know I needed to understand money because I'd witnessed money being a total stranglehold for so many people I knew growing up.
Yes.
That it seemed like a good skill to understand, to know.
And yet I gather, especially from your later career, that you had a great interest in the arts and movies and things but you didn't consider a career in the arts, or you just felt like, well, we got to start with money?
Well, I had grown up here in San Francisco, and my parents were small business owners, and I had witnessed them struggle to grow their business because they could never get a loan from a bank. And so that kind of made me aware of how big a problem fundraising was and raising money for business was. I went into finance after college to really understand money, but I had a couple of kind of serendipitous events where I started working with some filmmakers and theater producers. It was not what I was intending to do, but I had met so many amazing artists that were struggling to bring their stories to life, and thought that it would be one way I could help is help them raise money doing it, thinking I could offer my expertise in financing. But then started to struggle for the same reasons my parents struggled, is that we just didn't know the right people. I didn't know the right people. I didn't have the right brand. I didn't have the right track record on off-Broadway to help these ideas get off the ground. And so I realized that finance was actually broken in my personal experience in trying to help theater producers and filmmakers raise money. And after witnessing my parents struggle for so many years. But it was the theater experience that kind of made me realize how it was broken and how I was going to fix it, which is gatekeepers are, while they served an important purpose for so long and that they aggregated and allocated capital, they actually have become bottlenecks in the system. And in this world of the internet where information flows through freely, why can't capital flow freely as well? And so I went back to business school to start a company to democratize access to capital and give people, anybody who has an idea, who's willing to work hard and make it happen, the chance to get it off the ground and not make access to a gatekeeper a hurdle any longer. And that was where Indiegogo came from.
It's certainly what we've seen in media. I mean, until very recently, all the mainstream big media companies were run by people with deep pockets. Mm-hmm. Power of the press belongs to the man who owns the press, said H.L. Mencken. And whoever said it, he was right. And that's a big change. The internet has changed that dramatically. But it turns out not just in the arts and media. It's really extended everywhere. When did you start Indiegogo?
We launched Indiegogo in January 2008. I went back to business school in 2006, met my co-founders there who themselves had been struggling with raising money for various things. And so they joined in and we launched Indiegogo about a year later. So by the end of my business school time, we had launched. This was before the word crowdfunding was really a word. We didn't have any competition. It was like a brand new industry that we were inventing at the time.
When did Kickstarter start? Was it after that?
They're about a year and a half after.
Yeah. So, yeah, you guys started it. Those darn Kickstarter guys got a lot of the attention. I think mostly because of some big breakout funding events like the Pebble Watch and millions of dollars, and that's when all the press. But so how would you distinguish Indiegogo from Kickstarter?
Well, first and foremost, our philosophy is the biggest differentiator. We believe in democratizing access to capital. So when we launched, that's why we didn't have any kind of gatekeeper or application process. The last thing we wanted to become was a gatekeeper ourselves, where we decided which ideas had a chance or not. And so we launched a platform where anyone could create a campaign, and then your success is based on how hard you're willing to work and how much your audience cares. So we actually built an engine on the back end, a data-driven engine on the back end to help promote and spread ideas that are actually gaining traction and are getting a lot of audience response, and the campaign owner is working. And so that's why we built Indiegogo to be a very much a meritocracy, and why so many people use this is because their destiny is completely in their control. The second biggest difference is that we really built ourselves to be an amplification engine. That's something we take very seriously. Indiegogo and crowdfunding, it's not a just put up an idea, walk away, and hope the world sees you. We've actually built a mechanism where the more effort you put in, the more we promote you, and the more we share, or the more we help you find your audience, whether they're in your network or not, or whether they're on Indiegogo or not. It doesn't matter. We'll help you find your audience out in the world, and give you access to more people than you could ever do on your own. And so those are kind of the two biggest differences. The other difference is we're global. We're in every country. We have, contributions coming in from at least 70 countries every single week. We have campaigns from every single country. So we do have this global audience that we provide access to, which for a lot of inventors or entrepreneurs who are building tools or products where their audience is global, that is very, very beneficial. Then there's other things like, functionality differences. We offer fixed funding and flex funding. So we empower the campaign owner to decide which funding option is better for them. Fixed funding is where you only get your money if you reach your goal. And flex funding is you get your money whether or not you reach your goal. There's other benefits to the fixed funding, like we don't have leakage risks or gamification risks that come with the pledge-based system. So we steer clear of that. And then other things like just easy payments. We're the first to implement Stripe, we've got credit cards, PayPal, all that. It makes it very easy for people to pay. So, but the one thing that I think a lot of people keep coming back to us and say why they keep picking us over and over again is because we've actually built a team, a customer happiness team, a data insights team to be available to our customers. So our customers get the best coaching in the world. We respond to them within 24 hours. We've made ourselves very globally accessible, and that's very important because when you're putting your idea out on the line, when you're putting your reputation out on the line, and you have a question or you're running into a challenge and you want to get feedback on your campaign, you want to be heard and you want to get a response, and that's what sets us apart.
Who are your customers? You say customers.
Yeah, I love that question. Our customers are change makers. They're people who see the world and see that it could be a little different and be a lot better, whether it's literally someone trying to save the world, like an activist trying to cure cancer or, eliminate poverty, or it's an engineer or an inventor or a tinkerer who is so frustrated by how, something works that they know that they can make something so much better. And so we're just people, those people that our customers are those people that they see the world a little differently, and they're not afraid to put themselves out there and make the change happen, and then bring along a community of people that also want to see that change.
So was your original vision creators of content, filmmakers, artists, musicians, or did you?
We launched, yeah. Well, we took the Amazon approach. When we launched, this was before the word crowdfunding existed. We just knew that the internet was a more robust way to connect with your community, build that community, and raise money for an idea. That was our hypothesis. That was the premise. And so that's what we set out to prove. So when we launched our beta and we picked just one vertical. And at the time, because I'd been working with so many filmmakers from my prior frustrations before starting Indiegogo, and because my co-founders, they were film lovers themselves, they'd been going to Sundance for years, we decided, and we knew the pain point was incredibly strong with filmmakers trying to get their stories told, that we decided to start there. But we quickly, within a year and a half, we expanded, or a year maybe even, we expanded to everybody after we kind of tested the waters and started getting, this product out there that people could use. Again, this was the first one, so we weren't trying to be a better, faster, cheaper version of anything. We were trying to reinvent a whole new way of raising money and getting ideas off the ground.
So you don't, because Kickstarter, in fact, we tried to get on Kickstarter for building this studio, and they said no. So you don't say no to anybody. Anybody who wants to create a campaign on Indiegogo can do that, or are there?
We don't say no to anybody unless it's illegal.
Yeah, obviously.
That's because we are law-abiding companies and citizens here.
Although as a global company, sometimes what's legal has very different definitions all over the world.
Well, the key is we don't judge, and that's core to our ethos. If you think about it, I was just watching this incredible series on the History Channel about the men who built America. We'll put the men comment aside, but it would have been a different time. I'm sure there have been more
folks. Yeah.
But if you go back to the story about how electricity was invented and brought to market, it was basically Edison was tinkering in his studio. He came up with this incredible invention, but he was fortunate enough to know a man by the name of J.P. Morgan, who clearly had enough money to bring it to market and make it happen. Well, as soon as I saw that story retold, which I know we all know that story, but all I could think about were how many other Edisons out there in the world at the time that never brought their invention to life because they didn't know a JP Morgan, because they were a common man that didn't have access to, rich people and the money bag. So I just think about how many ideas never got born, and we'll never know how many there were because they never had a chance to start. So they didn't even have a chance to fail yet. That's what drives me, and that's why Indiegogo is the way we are. That's why we've been hell-bent on never judging up front. Like, if your idea fails and you're unable to connect with anybody in the world to share your passion, if no one else believes in your vision, then at least that's proof that the world's not ready for it. And so you've gotten your feedback, and we have people that do fail that way, and they're incredibly thankful to have had the opportunity to try it on Indiegogo and realize that their idea wasn't resonating enough with the community. They'd rather do it, test it, and know that in 2 or 3 weeks than waste 2 years of their life and all their life savings on an idea that was never going to see the light of day. But then you also get the people that, have been tinkering in their garage, that aren't connected to anybody, and because of Indiegogo, their whole life is on a new trajectory now. I think of the Solar Roadways team, which was a married couple.
So cool.
So cool. In their middle ages, they're not in the middle. They are in the middle.
They are in their middle ages. There were no solar roadways in the Middle Ages.
That is true. But they have this wild, fantastic idea, which is, what if the world were covered with solar-powered roads? Yeah. We would literally eliminate carbon emissions by 80%. We'd make the roads safer. We could power our cities with the energy created from these roads. What an amazing, audacious, kind of crazy idea. And so they've been working on this idea for 10 years. And the moment they came on Indiegogo, their project soared to a whole new level. They've raised over $2 million. They've got everybody from the White House to Richard Branson wanting to get involved with them. These are people that proved it. They had an idea, they put it out there. They weren't judged up front. We have so many people that have said that, if we do have people that, take their idea to the bank or a VC, and the VC or bank says they're crazy. And so then the idea dies. Well, it won't die anymore. We have Indiegogo, and it allows you to at least prove that you you've got a market and you're onto something. And at least you have a community that wants you to try and figure out this breakthrough as well.
The venture capitalists, the experts, the money people, mostly men, would say, oh, no, but we're experts. We're not going to be fooled or tricked by things like, using water for gasoline. And if you just let people contribute to this stuff, they're going to lose their shirts because they don't have the critical faculties. They love these ideas, and they may say, yeah, wouldn't it be great if I could use water for gasoline? But they don't understand it's not possible. So protection is also very important. We're going to take a break, but I want to talk a little bit about that. I also want to talk about being a woman executive in technology, and that's a hot topic right now, thanks to Newsweek. But there's lots more to talk about with Danae, and we will continue our interview in just a second. Danae Ringelmann is our guest. She is founder and chief development officer at Indiegogo.com. Our show today brought to you by HipChat. We love HipChat. We're using it right now in so many ways. We started with our web development team. They're in Austin. We're here. We need a way. It's more than Instant Messenger. It kind of looks like Instant Messenger. It's convenient and easy and fast and kind of spontaneous like an Instant Messenger. But it's a much better tool, better than email, because it integrates, of course, chatting, but video chat, document sharing. You can do screen sharing so you can actually see each other. You can do code sharing. It's really designed for development. Email's too slow, frankly, for this kind of go-go technology, and meetings get sidetracked, and frankly, regular IM just doesn't have the tools you need. HipChat does. We've now added it to our engineer. We use HipChat with engineering. We use HipChat in sales, and we're going to start using it with hosts. It works from any device, no matter where you are, and I love that. HipChat for Mac, HipChat for Windows, HipChat for Linux, HipChat for Android, HipChat for iOS. And no matter what platform you're on, even if you're using a Raspberry Pi, you can use your browser because HipChat works in the browser. Best part, it integrates with the top developer tools, GitHub and Jira, Zendesk, 57 services, in fact, that HipChat plays nice with. HipChat's easy to use, fun to set up, makes your team wildly productive, and it's free. I love free stuff. Now, there is a premium version, HipChat Plus, but you can find out all about the premium version by trying it free for 30 days. HipChat.com/triangulation. You can use the free forever, but for the next 30 days, let's try the whole kit and caboodle. So many great teams, so many great companies are using HipChat. We love it. You'll get the bonus video and screen sharing stuff of HipChat Plus. No credit card required for 30 days. And in fact, for the first 100 people who sign up right now, we're going to extend that offer to 90 days. So for the first 100 HipChat signups at HipChat.com/triangulation, you'll get 3 months free. Go there right now. HipChat.com/triangulation. HipChat, your team, your product, in sync, instantly. Danae Ringelmann is our guest. Certified Financial Analyst. Is that what CFA stands for?
No, Chartered Financial Analyst.
Chartered Financial. Yeah. And that's because that's what you did early on and for Cowen and Company, right?
Yeah, I was at JP Morgan and Cowen for a couple years, and I finished the CFA program and all of that, and then quit and started a company.
I said, I got it, I don't need it.
It was a good foundation to understand the classic principles of finance and to be able to see where there could be improvements.
Well, it puts you in a great position because you can see how it works traditionally and then see what you can do to make it work better. But I'm sure there's some of your former colleagues at JP Morgan who say, no, you should let us do all the investing because we're the experts.
Well, that's true. We don't see ourselves as combative or competitive with the current JP Morgans and Goldman Sachs and VCs of the world. We actually see ourselves playing very nicely together. And what I try to tell banks when I'm out on the speaking circuit is we are going to be your best friend. I promise. We already are becoming that. And what I mean by that is because Indiegogo is a funding platform. It's a way to raise money directly from your customers or fans or whoever. When you do that, it's also becoming a way to validate your market and refine your product market fit because you're getting very important feedback, what people are willing to pay for, what features they want, what price points they're willing to pay. All of that information comes back and actually helps you make a better product before you launch. And so what Indiegogo is essentially doing is we're reducing market risk as well as execution risk, which the three main risks any entrepreneur faces when they start a company is execution risk, market risk, and financing risk. And so now we've addressed all three. We're helping you raise money, which is the financing risk. We're helping you prove your market, which is the market risk, making something that potentially no one wants or cares about. And then the third risk is execution risk, which is we're helping refine your product market fit so you actually make something that the world wants. So in that regard, what we're becoming is this incubation platform where ideas are getting off the ground in a very risk mitigated way, and then becoming very attractive to traditional investors who can't provide the benefits that crowdfunding can in terms of the market data and market intelligence that can come through in an Indiegogo campaign. So they're becoming increasingly reliant on us as a discovery platform or an incubation platform, if you will, to find the great, well market validated ideas.
Maybe then it's the SEC, because I know the SEC has, in fact, initially SEC regulations made some of this a little sketchy because did you run up against SEC regulations early on? I know that's changed with the Jobs Act.
Well, yeah. Well, with my original vision, I wanted to democratize investing.
Right.
And so
couldn't do that, though.
I couldn't do that. My original vision was more of an offline fund with a democratic twist. And then when I met my co-founders, they're like, why aren't you using the internet? That's the most democratic tool out there. And I was like, well, I'd love to, but it would be illegal if we allowed people to invest in things online. It would be deemed a public offering. And if you're trying to raise $20,000 or $40,000 to prototype your invention or open up a restaurant, for example, and if it's going to cost you $50,000 to register that offering, it doesn't make any sense to do it. So rather than we tried to navigate all the laws and see if we could automate exemptions and all that kind of stuff, but realized that we were trying to start a company, invent an industry, and change the law as three newbie entrepreneurs, and that probably was a bit too much to do all at once. So we put the equity investment piece aside, and we came up with a new idea at the time. If people could invest for profit, what could they get in return? And that's when we came up with the idea of perks. It was a total experiment, but it's become a pillar of the crowdfunding industry, and it was a piece of the infrastructure that actually allowed the whole business model to flourish over the last 8 years, which is crazy.
Yeah, perks are a great idea.
Right. But we also, have equity as a goal in the future. And, I remember thinking we'll come back to that 10 or 15 years from now. But within just a couple of years after we launched, we became connected with the White House and became part of the President Obama's Startup America program. And then as we started to show more and more success of businesses that were rejected by bank loans or rejected by VCs who were accessing capital in Indiegogo and then growing and flourishing and creating jobs, it became something that the White House couldn't ignore. And at the same time, I actually did a campaign on Indiegogo myself as a customer to raise $1,000 with a blogger and a lawyer. It was actually led by the blogger, and I helped him, Paul Spinrad, and we actually raised $1,000 to pay a lawyer enough to write a petition to the SEC to change crowdfunding law
Wow.
to allow equity crowdfunding to happen. And that was the seed that kind of birthed into the Jobs Act. And then when it really started to carry steam, because some startup exemption lobbyists who were very proactive kind of kept it going, then they came to us, the White House came to us for more examples. And that's what was enough kind of ammunition and stories to prove that equity crowdfunding or crowdfunding in general is an incredible economic catalyst for our country. And especially when traditional financing vehicles fail, and we should take a look at it. And then that's what led to the Jobs Act. So I was excited we got to go to the signing of the Jobs Act when President Obama did it. And we're still waiting for the regulations, and hopefully they're coming out later this year. And then once they happen, we'll see what we can do. So
there's Title II, and then there's Title III rulings, which are still to be.
Which I'm referring to, yeah. So the only thing that people are not allowed to offer via perks right now, because it's illegal, is any kind of profit or rev share or any kind of upside, because that would deem it a security and that would make it illegal. But with equity crowdfunding, we will be able to hopefully be able to figure out how to leverage a platform like ours, change it, of course, enhance it to fit the regulations and the different customer needs that will come when for-profit investing is possible online. And then we'll figure out how to serve that audience as well.
Isn't that interesting? Because I think that maybe now it's better understood, crowdfunding and so forth. But initially in crowdfunding, I think people really thought, oh, I'm investing in a company. And for instance, Oculus Rift, which raised so much money on Kickstarter and then was sold for billions to Facebook, there still was that little seed of, well, what's in it for me? I gave them a couple $100 when they were just starting out. People really do feel like I'm investing in a company, but the legal regulations prevent that right now.
Well, and I think it's up to also the campaign owners, and we coach our campaign owners to be very transparent with their goals. So I think the Oculus Rift example that you mentioned, there was a mismatch in expectations, and that's why there was a lot of reaction and upset people. But what we coach our customers to do is just be very honest and open and direct what you're trying to do. We actually know when campaigners do an Indiegogo campaign, we encourage them to be incredibly direct and transparent about what amount they're trying to raise and what that money will go towards. And not only what they're trying to build, but also why they're trying to build it and who they are. Like, why are they the right people to be building this? For lots of reasons, which I can go into in a little bit if you want. But what that does is it also sets the expectations that the funders know what's happening and what's going to happen, or at least know the roadmap for what's going to happen. Things change, et cetera, sometimes, but at least they know what they're getting into. And so if the end goal is to sell to a larger company, then the funders know that up front, and then it feels more of like a empowerment exercise for them to fund something to help them bring this idea and get it off the ground versus an experience where they feel ripped off in some fashion.
You just set up a new relationship with Vimeo, which is neat. There's a $1 million creative fund for Indiegogo film and video campaigners. So that's kind of an interesting idea. This is the first time you've partnered with somebody like this?
Yeah, I mean, one thing that we're kind of, innovation is like a key word at Indiegogo. We created this industry. We did it by innovating, creating a whole new way to raise money. And so it's part of who we are, and we're going to continue to expand and roll out products that we think are features or experiences that we think will help the entire ecosystem of online funding flourish and thrive. And so for filmmakers, for example, we just partnered with Vimeo. It's a great way for filmmakers to go from, raising money for the film and direct into distribution. So it's seamless and easy. We've done this recently with Amplifier. It's a new partnership, which if you are a campaign owner and you're offering things like t-shirts and mugs and things like that as perks, we now have a partnership with them where it's completely seamless. So once you raise your money, they go into production for you and help fulfill on your perks automatically. And we've done things like recently we launched a whole new feature called In Demand, which is now allowing campaign owners who have raised money reach their target and don't want to kill the momentum, but they want to keep it going after their campaign is ended. Now those campaign owners can transition into In Demand, which is basically a period where they can continue to collect funds, and it helps them transition from this period of campaigning into and towards commerce. So it's a very innovative space right now, and I think we're the only ones doing it, and taking you that one step closer to commerce completely. And it's very exciting. Our customers have been wanting it for a while, and we were excited to have just recently launched it at CES in January.
That's another tricky thing, though. Sometimes people think, oh, this is a marketplace and I'm buying a product. You want to make sure people understand that's not what's going on, right?
It's not what's going on. And that's part of the see, one of the values at Indiegogo is fearlessness.
Yeah.
We don't hire anybody who doesn't completely embody this trait and behavior. And the way we define fearlessness is a few different ways. But one thing is we look for people who look at challenges and they automatically turn them into opportunities. And so when we knew when we were starting Indiegogo, what we actually realized, one of the biggest challenges that we had to overcome, and we're still working on it, it'll take probably, several years, is the fact that most people in the world have never had the opportunity to fund anything directly. Only the high net worth people or rich people could have had that privilege. And so the only experience people had in transacting money was either donating or buying. And so this concept of funding is a completely new behavior for many people because of the ways our laws have been written. And so, yes, while we're trying to prove the internet's a great way to raise money, we're also trying to educate people what funding really means. And funding is the exercise of putting your money into something that doesn't yet exist with the goal that it will exist. And in that process, there is risk, and sometimes things go awry. But the ride is an incredible journey, and you actually can help reduce the risk by not only funding, but also helping bring partnerships and other customers and things like that. So in a way, we're democratizing access to the entrepreneurial experience for people, which they haven't really had access to unless they quit their day job and went wholeheartedly into it themselves, which most people don't have that ability or the life situations to enable them to do that.
Yeah, but if you're not participating in, if you're not an equity partner, you're not participating in the upside, you're not making any profit, it's not really an investment.
It is the four reasons people fund on Indiegogo, which is what our data shows, is that they fund because they want to support a person.
Yeah.
We call it the 4 Ps to make it easy to remember, but person, they fund for passion. So they just really want to see this. They're really passionate about the actual project. They fund to participate. So this is the thing that would kind of trump what you just said. People want to participate in cool things.
But not economically.
Change.
They're not allowed to participate economically.
They're not allowed to. I think they will want to economically when it's allowed to, but it's not the economics is not the only reason people fund things. And the fourth reason is the perk. They want the thing that they want the thing to actually exist, and they want to get one.
Sure.
For me, like a good example of that is there was two young entrepreneurs that came on Indiegogo that started a new doll company called Miss Possible. And these dolls are going to emulate famous female scientists like Marie Curie and Ada Lovelace. And it's amazing. And their goal is to inspire more young girls to go into STEM and to ensure that they know that science and technology is a place for women, et cetera. I funded that campaign because I love the entrepreneurs. They're incredibly inspiring. I believe in getting more women and young girls excited about science and technology. We need their perspectives. And I wanted to participate in this movement. I love Indiegogo. There's no way I'm walking away from Indiegogo today, but I want to make sure that this company has a chance to really survive and thrive because I believe in it. So I want to participate in their success. And then lastly, I wanted the doll because I have a young niece at home who I want to give it to. And she's mixed race. And so the one of the fun things that the campaign owners are doing is they're reaching out to their funders and they're asking, okay, once we launch with Marie Curie, who's our next doll going to be? And they're actually testing which products and which dolls they're going to launch based on customer feedback or funder feedback, if you want to call it that. So I'm hoping it's Bessie Coleman, who was the first African-American female pilot in the United States in the 1800s, because I want to get that doll for
That's awesome.
my niece.
So you embody the 4 Ps, Danae.
I do, and I think every customer, every funder that we talk to does as well. There's an interesting.
But don't you worry, though. I just want to stay with this one a little bit longer. Don't you worry if you prevail and the SEC allows people who participate in Indiegogo to profit, that then there'll be this risk that people will come and look for investments and maybe bet the rent money or their life savings because they're so sure. And now you've got a real problem. Wouldn't it be better if there weren't any profit participation?
I think that's what we said basically in the 30s is people who are unsophisticated. The way to protect them from losing their net worth and their savings is basically to not allow them to invest in anything. It was a reaction to the oil speculators knocking on widows' doors or, saying, give me all your money and I'll make you a ton. And then they ran with it and they invested in oil and it just didn't come to be. And it was too high risk. And so I think at the time, the 30s, the 1934 and 33 Securities Acts were appropriate measures to protect people. But fast forward 80, 90 years, in a way that decision has kind of driven a divide between the haves and the have-nots. It's only given more investment opportunities to the rich and less to the poor. And so the current situation is that it's not actually helping the wealth division that's happening in this country and across the world. That said, I think you bring up a good point, which is how do we get regular folks like my mother or whoever to invest in things? I mean, frankly, my mother keeps her money out of the stock market right now, a little bit of savings that she has, because she doesn't trust it. 2008 was a very good example that, people who do know what they're doing don't. Right. And so what she just wants to be able to invest in things that she knows and understands. And that's people she knows, that's ideas she understands, that's businesses that she knows. And she doesn't have that capability to do it now. So I think when equity crowdfunding comes out, I think the platforms that end up thriving in this will be the ones that educate people the best about what risk is. And make sure that their expectations are aligned. It's going back to the kind of expectation conversation we were having earlier. Now the question is, what amount of regulation will be needed to ensure that? And that's always a tricky dance, because you don't want to overregulate, nor do you want to underregulate. We don't want another 2008, but if you overregulate, you will stifle the innovation in the industry. And for us, for example, we do a ton of work on the back end since the beginning around taking anti-fraud measures, making sure that people aren't scamming people and things like that. That stuff we've innovated on the back end to keep the site clean and safe. We don't need the law telling us to do that. We just do that because we want to stay in business and we want to make Indiegogo safe and clean for the 99.9% of the people using it in the way it should be. So the question is, how much regulation will there be needed to ensure people do that? Hopefully, if a platform is smart, they'll follow suit and they'll do things smartly, like innovate around fraud and things like that, and innovate around education and risk education and things like that. So, but I think we need that period to figure out what amount is needed. And I think when e-commerce started, it was super messy. There was a lot of pain, a lot of misunderstanding, but that's the natural evolution of new industries.
We're talking. A little echo coming back at me. We're talking to Danae Ringelmann. She is the founder and chief development officer at Indiegogo. More to come in just a moment. First, I want to talk actually about an interesting product that was a Kickstarter campaign. I invested. Many of the people I know invested in Smartthings, and it came out quite well, I think. The premise of Smartthings was, of course, that home automation is no fun, because there are protocols upon protocols upon protocols. Nothing talks to anything else. Your Hue lights don't talk to your Sonos. Your Sonos doesn't talk to your Schlage, and nothing talks to your X10. Smartthings said if we made a hub that could talk to everything, then you could home automate and maybe then make that hub controllable by your smartphone. Then you can be at work and you could say, turn the lights down, turn the music up, and start dinner because I'm on my way home. That's what Smartthings does. It's really a great idea. And not only were they a successful crowdfunded company, but they have now grown and grown and grown, and they have these amazing home security and solution kits. They've got lots of doohickeys. So Smartthings works with everything. It works with your Schlage locks. It works with your Hue lights, your everything. They have a free app for iOS, for Android, and yes, Windows Phone. I love them for that. So they make sure that you can control all these devices. You can enable your speakers to broadcast dogs barking if there's motion outside the house. You could set a camera to take photos if entry is detected. You can set a welcome home song to play on your Sonos speakers when your children enter the house. The sky's the limit here. It all starts, though, with a Smartthings hub and a Smartthings home security kit or solution kit that'll give you the tools you need. The hub comes with everything. Look at this. The water detection kit has Smartthings' own moisture sensor, which helps you protect valuables from water damage. You put it wherever you need it to be. 1 year battery life in this thing. It's really cool. And there it is. Where is it? There it is. It connects with the Smartthings hub. They've got so many other ones, though. I mean, there's the motion sensor. Here's the Smart Sense. This does more than just sense open and close. It also could tell you the temperature in any room of your house, or if there's unexpected entry. So you can connect that to your Nest thermostat. Yes, Smartthings works with Nest, and say, it's too warm in the bedroom. Could you turn it down in the living room? Let's see. Here's the temperature and humidity sensor. Here's the presence sensor. You put this in the kid's backpack or on a dog or a cat. It'll tell you when they arrive or leave home. Or just attach it to your keys, and you'll never lose your keys again. The stack continues to rise. This, of course, is the power hub. That's very useful. That could turn anything on based on well, you see, I've got too many smart things, but you can never have too many smart things. Start right now with the solution kit. Whether the home security or the solution kit, you're going to get 10% off when you use this offer code TWIT. SmartThings was named CES 2015 Editor's Choice. Yes, it is a great product, getting better all the time, and I want you to check it out. 10% off and free shipping in the U.S. Go to smartthings.com/twit. Get your home security or your solution kit and get 10% off when you use the offer code TWIT at checkout. Smart Things. Smart. I love it. And there's quite a few examples of that. I'm looking at the couple of the things I funded on Indiegogo. One was some really amazing knives, the V-Matter knives, and I got those, and I love those. And I'm waiting for my Gebo because I put money into Gebo as well. That's the home robot.
Let's do a quick user question. So why did you fund Gebo?
Because, I'm not going to make any money on Gebo. In fact, I don't even know if I'm ever going to get a Gebo, but I love the idea. And I watched the video, and I happen to have met the woman who's behind Gebo, Cynthia Brazil, and seen her amazing robotic creations. And look how much they raised on Indiegogo. Now, it's going to be a year before I even see a Gebo. But I just think it was really cool. And yeah, you're right. It's all of the 4 Ps, I think, because I want the perk. It's definitely about the people, investing in the people. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what the other 2 Ps are, but I'm sure it's also those as well. So no, I don't. I'm really nervous that if this becomes, and you'll get a share in stock for Gebo, that this might become somewhat of a speculative marketplace like the stock market is. I understand that laws that prevent people from investing are paternalistic, but all laws are seatbelt laws are paternalistic, really. But I just feel like I really worry that some people will start to flock to sites like yours and use it as a very speculative way to save, for their retirement. Mm-hmm. And so you're right. I think, and I get the sense that Indiegogo especially, you're going to spend a lot of time with investors, so they understand the risks and they understand what's going on here. You, I know, and I've looked at it, have a lot of information on here about how to get a successful campaign going, what to do. You've also got, and I love this, Indiegogo, is it called Life, where people can raise money for a person. And you've got some personal fundraisers here. There's medical, somebody needs surgery, help somebody get a webcam, support a life cycle ride. I just love this idea. This is all about the people.
It is all about the people. Well, we found that a huge growing part of our customer segments were people just raising money for other individuals, whether for themselves because they're going through a hard time and they have medical bills piling up, or for those that they love, who's going through a hard time, or even for a stranger. I mean, one of kind of my favorite stories recently was that a man was wrongfully convicted of murder and was put in jail for 25 years and finally got out free after the conviction was overturned. But he got out with $93 in his pocket, and a stranger saw that story and wanted to do something. So he ran an Indiegogo fundraiser to put a few more bucks in his pocket, and the community ended up raising over $50,000 to give this guy a new chance at life. So it was a great example of how, if you want to see a change in the world, whether it's a new product or you want to change someone's life, Indiegogo and Indiegogo Life have become this new way to turn your social capital into financial capital to do what you care about most. And it's totally working. We're seeing a lot of people use Indiegogo Life for medical fundraisers, emergencies, even life celebrations. The youngest African-American chess master has to go on tour in order to become a grand chess master. And he's trying to set the record, and he just doesn't have the funds to hit all these tournaments. So he's turning to the community that wants to help him set a new record. And so it's a really wonderful way for you to put your money where your heart is and money where your mouth is. Well,
as a chess player myself, I'm gonna help Joseph become a champion. I want him to become a grand master. That's great.
A big campaign. I don't know if you've heard.
Oh, this is a different one. Maybe this is a different one.
No, that's the right one.
Yeah.
I think so. Just recently, last week, I don't know if you've heard of a man by the name of Honey. His name is Brendan, and he keeps the blog called Honey, which is Humans of New York. So basically, he left finance after he got laid off, and to start a new life, he moved to New York and just started taking photos of people, not knowing that it would turn into one of the most successful blogs ever. In the process, he has met the most interesting people ever, and one of the individuals he met last a couple weeks ago was a young boy by the name of Vidal, and he asked him, "Who's been the most impactful person in your life?" And Vidal said his principal. She basically has inspired me to realize that I'm a lot more than what my environment is telling me. And she actually has every student stand up and say, for every student that drops out of this high school, the U.S. government's going to build a jail cell. So let's not let that happen. And so, moved by this story, he basically decided to do something about it. Rather than just take a picture of this photo, he went on Indiegogo Life, and he created a fundraiser to help this principal bring students to Harvard, which was one of her dreams, is if I could just show my students what Harvard looked like. And these students, her school's in one of the most dangerous parts of Brooklyn, highest crime rates. Most kids have never left New York. She said, if I can just show them what Harvard or college looks like, they actually might dream a little bigger and set their goals higher. And so he just wanted to raise $30,000, enough to bring, a team of students, a class of students to Harvard. And now the fundraiser has gone completely ballistic. They've raised over $1.7 million.
Isn't that great?
To fund 10 classes, and everything over $700,000 they're turning into a scholarship fund for kids to go to college out of this high school. So it's been incredible, and it just shows the power of people. When you want something, if you want to be part of something, you can make it happen. You don't need to be a rich person or a patron anymore. $5, $1 is enough to be part of the change.
But that also raises the issue. The chess kid only $0. These guys $1.1 million, and that's partly because of all the publicity they got. A lot of what makes or breaks a crowdfund campaign is the ability to get the word out. You have to become a marketer.
Well, and that's why Indiegogo is an amplification engine. That's what we help do. You do help do that. The biggest difference, yes. If you don't have a huge blog following, we help you build that, and we help you, again, reach more people than you could ever do on your own. Yeah. I mean, that is the number one. We have I think we have more over $2 million campaigns on Indiegogo than any other platform. Wow. We've got plenty of huge, massive campaigns that are awesome and wonderful because those campaigns want to be that big and are trying to be that big. But what also happens on Indiegogo, which we define equally successful, are people who maybe just need $10,000 to open up a restaurant, and they need to buy a new oven, or they just need $30,000 to cover the molding costs or tooling costs to get your product at least 100 units into the marketplace. So, it's bigger is not better. We don't define success as the larger the better, and I think that's where the press is kind of missing the point of crowdfunding a little bit. We're kind of enamored by pure size. We look at exploding kittens and we go, "Oh my God!" Right? That's the story, and it's the smallest part of the story, frankly. Right. And YouTube, for example, YouTube will always have its multi-million-dollar video or multi-million view videos, but YouTube didn't start with the only goal to get every single video a million hits. The YouTube is there as a place to share your story or your video with the people in the world that want to see it, whether it's 10 people or 5 million people. And size doesn't necessarily make something better. So Indiegogo is very much the same, and that's why we have campaigners small and large coming to us, and that's why we feel like this is a more sustainable way to get ideas off the ground.
How many campaigns have there been?
We've had over 300,000 campaigns.
And how much money total has been raised?
We haven't disclosed that publicly yet, but we are distributing several millions every single week, all around the world, to entrepreneurs, to artists, to activists, to nonprofits. I mean, that's another thing is we allow nonprofits. So when you fund a nonprofit on Indiegogo, you get a tax deduction.
Oh,
that's not capable. That's not allowed on a lot of other sites.
That's nice.
And if you're someone who wants to raise money on behalf of a nonprofit, you don't need to go through the rigmarole of getting permission and getting all that stuff. All you need to do is start a campaign on Indiegogo, put that nonprofit as the recipient of your funds, and the money will go right to them.
I like that.
Another very seamless way for you to, if you want to, again, do something in this world and put yourself out there, we make it super easy to do.
And you monetize by taking a percentage of the proceeds. How does that work? Yeah.
So we take a percentage of funds raised on our site. So in both cases, when you hit your funding target, if you're an entrepreneur or a business or a creative artist using Indiegogo, if you use fixed funding or flex funding, the fee is 4% when you hit your target. If you don't hit your target in fixed funding, the money goes back to your funders and there's no fees whatsoever. In flex funding, where you do get your money, the funds are 9%, which is a little higher, but the gamification has helped people raise more money, or that's what our data has found in the past. So, and it doesn't, if you don't want fixed funding where you don't want the stress of having to reach the goal, then it's a much better option.
But I also love it that it's a cost-free way to try something. If it doesn't fly, you've lost nothing but some time. Mm-hmm. That's really great.
And that's why people use it as a market testing platform, especially if you're trying to build a product or an invention or a new business of any kind. It's a great way to get quick feedback on what you're trying to achieve. I mean, going back to Gebo, for example, I asked you, why did you fund it? Is because what Dr. Cynthia Brazil found when she did her Indiegogo campaign was that, she created Gebo, which is, she built to be the world's first family robot. And if we know the Jetsons, that's like Rosie.
Rosie.
We all wanted to exist.
She even kind of Rosie-shaped.
She even kind of had a Rosie shaped. And we're like, oh my gosh, it's actually happening now. Yeah. And this is not the first time. We actually had the Scanadu Scout, which is a medical tricorder, doctor in your pocket. That was ideated back on Star Trek 30 years ago. Right, so once again, this is, sci-fi isn't so sci-fi. Isn't so fi. It's becoming more sci. But with Gebo, after she did her Indiegogo campaign, she actually learned that there was a huge percentage of the funders, yes, were people who wanted a family robot. But yet she also discovered that there was a whole new contingent of funders that she hadn't necessarily modeled into her business. And those were single men who were funding the Gebo because they wanted a robot to teach them how to cook.
Wow.
So, a whole new use case that she unlocked that she never would have really known until too late. So now now that they're, in manufacturing and they're in, finalizing it and bringing it to market, when they actually go to market, they'll go after the families and reach out to them, but they're also going to have a new opportunity to go after single men who don't know how to cook because that's a whole new use case that her Indiegogo campaign kind of shared with her. And that goes back to the market validation that I was talking about earlier. No VC can tell you that. No VC can say with certainty, you've got a whole new market over here. It's men who don't know how to cook. That's what market data shows you, and that's what the Indiegogo data shows you. And so what Indiegogo really is it's creating a market before the market actually exists. And so you can't get better data. You can't get it from a focus group. You can't do any of that to really, you can't get the quality data that you can in an Indiegogo campaign. And actually one thing, sorry, to go back to pricing, if you do an Indiegogo Life campaign, we waive all Indiegogo fees. So that is free because it's often a personal fundraiser helping someone in need. I had a friend whose daughter had stage 4 brain cancer and it was very rare, and parents had to be out of work, and so their insurance was not great, and they had $11,000 deductible. And so suddenly, they were $22,000 in debt because the child got sick in December and they had all this help in December and January. So in a way, we were able to quickly raise $30,000 from friends of friends, and penetrate her extended network and beyond to help this family kind of get through this hard time. And the financial burden of something like this is just, it adds on top of the emotional burden that often comes with tragedies like this. So at least Indiegogo Life can help people deal with the financial stuff so they can focus on the emotional.
That's quite moving. I think a lot of people also probably remember the video of the school bus monitor who was verbally abused by the middle schoolers. And was it Reddit? Somewhere somebody posted a YouTube video of it and then created an Indiegogo Life campaign to give Karen, the bus monitor, a vacation and raise $700,000.
Yes. Once again, it's like the Honey campaign. People I think it hit a nerve in people. Bullying is a crisis. It's not just affecting one person. And it was a stranger who just went out of their way to do something about this, which is send this woman on vacation. Let's at least give her a $5,000 vacation. And I think it just allowed the world to say, look, bullying is a problem. This kind of stuff can't happen anymore. And so she's, I think, taken some of that money and given it to anti-bullying foundations and trying to help scale solutions to the issue. But it's just, that's why this is Indiegogo Life. It's more than funding. It's the world. We're giving the power back to the people of the world to decide which things matter and which things don't. And together, we can make something happen. If we all, put a little bit in, it can happen. And you don't need to be a high net worth person to do it anymore.
We're going to take a short break and come back with some final words. Our guest is Danae Ringelmann. She is the founder and chief development officer at Indiegogo, and you can see what a whole lot of good she's done in the world. I want to actually ask about women in tech, and particularly women executives in tech when we come back. Our show today brought to you by FreshBooks, a great solution for the entrepreneurs of the world, the small business people, the freelancers. One of the most important things you got to do if you're a freelancer, and I know this intimately, is get paid. And I always hated doing invoices. You open the spreadsheet, and you put the numbers in, and you got to mail it. And I would put it off for months. Fortunately, I found FreshBooks. Amber told me about it. I was up working in Toronto, and I had to bill Rogers every month, and I never did. In fact, 6 months in, I think I sent them 6 invoices at once, and they yelled at me. And I said, Amber, what do I do? She said, try FreshBooks. It had just started up in Toronto, and what a great find this was. I started invoicing through FreshBooks, and I got paid faster. In fact, they say on average, FreshBook customers get paid 5 days faster. Oh, and they double their revenue in the first 24 months. I don't know if that's because they're so smart that they found FreshBooks that now, they're going to be successful, or if their business grew even faster because they were using FreshBooks. FreshBooks doesn't just let you send invoices. You can use the FreshBooks apps. They're free on Android and iOS to do time and hours, to do billing. If you do expenses, I had to, get my receipts together to send them to Rogers so I get the plane ticket and the hotel paid back. You can just take a picture of the receipt and get it right into your invoice. FreshBooks is awesome. FreshBooks customers spend less time on paperwork, too. On average, freeing up to 2 days a month. 2 days a month to focus on the stuff you love, not the paperwork. I want you to try FreshBooks for absolutely free for 30 days. Go to freshbooks.com/triangulation. You know what I'm talking about. If you do invoices, you know what I'm talking. That is a painful, boring, annoying part of your job, and yet it's maybe the most important part, getting paid. Frankly, you got to get paid or you're not going to stay in business. Do this, and I tell you, your life will change. Freshbooks.com, it did for me. Freshbooks.com/triangulation. 30 days free. Just make sure you mention triangulation in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Danae Ringelmann is here. She's founder, chief development officer at Indiegogo, founded Indiegogo with Steve Rubin and
Eric Shell.
That's right, Eric Shell. Slava Rubin. And Slava. And 2 guys and a woman. Tell me about your experience as a woman, entrepreneur, a founder in technology. We hear a lot about it. Newsweek just had a cover, which some have said is very insulting, of how women are treated perceived in Silicon Valley, with a mouse clicking a woman's behind. Tell me a little bit about that. By the way, I should mention the CEO, person who runs this company, is a woman. And actually, I married her a couple of days ago. So
Good for you.
now she's not only a woman, she's my wife. But I love it, and she's brilliant, and she's a brilliant CEO. And but I know there are very few women CEOs in tech.
Well, for me, from my perspective, I grew up. My parents were small business owners. They were married and they ran a business together. And they had completely different strengths and weaknesses.
Yes.
And because of that, they very much needed each other to make this business run. And so, and I grew up, both my parents were like, it's never been a better time to be a woman. Do what you want. If you want to make change, go make it. If you want to be something, go be it. Like, there's no hurdles, and don't ever think about yourself as different. And so they didn't even say that. They just made me never think of that I was different. So I think when I left finance to start Indiegogo, it was really out of a frustration of inequity, around inequity. And so, on Indiegogo, for example, we have completely changed how finance works. So if you look at venture capital, less than 14% or so of venture-backed businesses are run by women or have a CEO. But on Indiegogo, 47% of all campaigns that reach the funding target are run by women. And so I wanted to kind of, in general, when you democratize access to something, to anything, a lot of the potential biases that were in place, potentially keeping certain populations out, go away. And so in a way, talking about trying to fix bias and all that stuff becomes an irrelevant conversation, because now we've eliminated bias from the equation. So, or at least we've allowed all biases to enter the decision-making process. So in a way, no one bias can kind of dominate and take control. And so I really think that Indiegogo is a good illustration of that. I think it proves that ideas come from all people, men, women, black, white, you name it. Everyone can have ideas, and everyone can have hustle and work ethic to make it happen. And then if you literally let the financing decision, in our case, be one determined by how hard you're willing to work and how much an audience wants your idea, and by nothing else, then the numbers should prove that we're all just as entrepreneurial as everybody else. So I think what I've just done is I've just focused on, one of my favorite quotes comes from Gandhi, which is "Be the change you want to see." And, we started Indiegogo so we could create the change that we wanted to see, which was equal opportunity and funding. But that kind of ethos has just totally taken over our whole company and how we think about everything. And it emanates through our brand. It emanates through our product. It's why we're open. And it emanates through the people that we attract to come work at Indiegogo. So I guess most tech companies are having a gender equity issue. They're having ethnic equity issues. On Indiegogo, or at Indiegogo, almost 50% of our employees are women. I think it's 45 right now. Over 33% of our tech talent is women. And 43% of our leadership team is women. And so I think we have more work to do on the ethnic side. I think something like, 60 to 61% of our employees are white. So 35 or 40% are non-white, but we have more work to do there. But I think what we've done is we've just really taken this concept of being the change we want to see very seriously and build a product to enable that. And in building a product with a mission that's it's attracted like-minded folks, which means a diversity of folks. So I think diversity is an incredibly important issue, especially for tech companies who are supposedly leaders in innovation.
Yep.
in order to, I mean, there's plenty of research further that shows that the most innovative companies, the companies with highest productivity, best decision making, greatest employee retention, all of that come from diverse companies. Diversity drives all of those things, which eventually drives better results, which eventually is better ROI, which means it's a better investment. So it's very logical right now for people to be investing in diversity, both for ROI reasons and for moral or ethical reasons, if you want to call it that.
And I had no idea. It really says a lot. 47% of all of Indiegogo's campaigns are run by women. That says something right there. That's fantastic. I'll give you some other numbers. When Danae was starting Indiegogo, they were rejected by 92 different venture capital and angel investors. 92, including Y Combinator. Forbes found that out. And you recently spoke at Y Combinator on diversity and inclusiveness in startups. I think that's fantastic.
Well, I guess with every rejection came more motivation to make Indiegogo work.
92 is a big number.
It's a big number. And I think Slava, who was running our fundraising, I think he's just stopped telling Eric and me how many people kept rejecting us. He was just trying to protect us, keep us focused on what we were focused on. I was running operations and payments and customer service, and
You didn't need to know that. Well, you're good. You're good now, right?
We're good. We're good now. Yeah, but I think it's true. Like with every rejection came more motivation to bring Indiegogo to the world, because it just told our story better than anything.
Yeah.
Like, and I think Y Combinator is doing some great stuff, and I know Jessica really well, and I think she actually, when she found out, she didn't remember that she had rejected us, so she pulled up our original application. I think we wrote the application super early, like probably in like 2006 or something, and I'm like, oh, please don't read it to me. I don't want to hear what we said, because I think the biggest mistake we made early on is that when we were pitching Indiegogo, we were pitching what we were today versus what we wanted to be tomorrow. And we weren't really sharing our vision enough. And we thought we needed to prove that internet today is a great way to raise money. And that was our learning, and that's fine. But I think to your point, 92 traditional investor rejections before we were able to secure any dollars from anybody in a traditional format.
Wow.
So I always like to say, if we had Indiegogo while we were trying to start Indiegogo, it would have made starting Indiegogo a lot easier.
Did you ever get that off-Broadway show funded?
No, I worked with the director. So we had Arthur Miller, who was alive at the time, had given us permission to try to give it a go. And then we brought the play to life at a one-night event.
Was it an Arthur Miller play?
It was an Arthur Miller play called Incident in Vichy, which was about racial profiling.
Yes.
And this was right after September 11th in New York City. So I thought racial profiling was a very relevant topic, one that people would want to debate and discuss more through the arts and publicly. So, but I got investors there. We got an audience to the theater. We rented a theater. We got actors to volunteer their time. Richard Dreyfuss even volunteered his time. Oh. Fritz Weaver, which was the famous kind of, off-Broadway theater actor.
Yeah.
And everything was beautiful. The audience loved it. And the investors at the end of me said, that was wonderful. We're not investing. Good luck. And pretty much it was, I had no track record of being some kind of off-Broadway producer. And it was too high risk, and they had other interests, and that was actually the pivotal moment for me, because I realized that finance was fundamentally broken because the people who wanted idea to happen, which were in this case were the actors in the audience, they didn't have the actual power or mechanism to make it happen. They were completely dependent on a third-party gatekeeper. So that's why Indiegogo doesn't have gatekeepers. That was the crux of the brokenness of the system, and that by fixing that, we could make it far more efficient, and as a result, make it far more fair.
It worked. It's so great to talk to you, Danae. I agree with you 100%. Let's get rid of the gatekeepers. Indiegogo.com. You can follow Danae on Twitter, GoGo Danae, And of course, I don't know what else. Go to Indiegogo and start your own campaign.
Yeah. If you want to see change, if you want to invent something, if you want to help somebody, no more excuses. You can get started today. Just click create and click go.
Be the change you want to see in the world. Thank you, Danae.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Very inspiring. Very exciting. We do Triangulation every Monday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1900 UTC on twit.tv. Please watch live if you can, because I love having the chat room give me questions. Saves me a lot of research. But if you can't, don't worry. On-demand audio and video available after the fact at our website, twit.tv/TRI, or youtube.com/triangulation, or wherever you get your podcasts, including iTunes. And, of course, we have apps. We didn't do them, but great third-party developers have done apps for us on every platform, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, even Roku. So find a Twit app and download it. That way you'll make sure you see every episode. This is one show you don't want to miss. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you next time on Triangulation.